Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Andrew. So today I'm going to be talking about the good that the Catholic Church does. Now, before I start, I do want to tell you that no matter what you believe when it comes to religion, I respect the fact that you should be entitled to have that belief. Not only that, but I do not lose respect for someone based on that belief. So you can believe in a god, you can believe in no god, you can believe in multiple gods, you can believe in all the gods. It really does not matter to me. I don't lose respect no matter what you believe. That being said, I do start to lose respect if you try to dictate to me that I should believe something because you know something that I don't, and so you're better than me. That's when I'm going to have the problem. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that it's not okay for us to talk about our beliefs. I think that's actually very, very important. That's part of the reason I am doing this series. But there is a difference between respectfully talking to someone and dictating what someone should do because you believe it. And that's something that is lost on some people, unfortunately. Also, I do want to say that just because I'm talking about this doesn't mean I'm trying to change your opinion on anything. I'm just talking about it to try and create, more than anything else, respectful dialogue where we can discuss our differing opinions in a positive way instead of just either yelling at each other or just completely ignoring each other. I think that is very important, and I think that's one thing we are losing right now as a society, much to our detriment. So if you're wondering, that is why I'm doing this series. Now, so what the good that the Catholic Church does. Now, I have a slight bias when it comes to this, and I fully admit that I have this bias. I personally believe the Catholic Church has done much more bad than good in the world. I believe that they will never be able to balance the good from the bad. Personally, I think that for the most part, the church is just a corrupt organization bent on control and power. But that's my opinion. You may have a different one. That's fine. I see, by the way, the Bible or the belief in Christianity and the church as two different things. So even though I'm not necessarily pro the church. I am. If you want to believe in God, that's totally fine by me. I do have that bias. I can see some good things that the church has done, and I'm going to talk about some of those today. But knowing that I had this bias, I reached out to a couple people I know that are Catholic and asked if they would be willing to share with me some ideas of some of the good that the Catholic Church does, and I heard nothing back. I then made a video on YouTube here asking for any of these viewers if you felt comfortable commenting on the good that you think the Catholic Church does, and I don't even think I got one view on it. So kind of hard to comment if you don't see something. So nothing. Well, I guess the answer is nothing. That was an easy video. See you in the next one. You want more than that? Okay. So I did some research. I saw what people were talking about online. I have a couple of ideas of my own of what are some of the good that the Catholic Church does. And I will say that with this list, I am focusing on things that affect the world and not just Catholics. So I'll give a good example of something that would affect just Catholics that is good. An example of that would be the sacraments. They won't be on this list, but it makes I know Catholics, and it makes them feel good following the sacraments, and that's great. I have no problem with that. But it doesn't really affect the rest of the world. I am specifically talking about things that have brought good to the world by the Catholic Church. So first, they build schools, orphanages, and hospitals all around the world. They take care of millions of people. they teach them, they look after them, they help heal millions of people all around the world. 1 in 5 people in the U.S. are treated in a Catholic hospital when they go into hospital. So it's not just in the poorer countries; they are also in the wealthier countries as well. And they also help feed and clothe poor people and people in need daily around the world. Another one that I saw online, they give hope in a world where that idea is dwindling. I debated putting that on the list or not. I do think it does good. That is mainly for Christians that it gives hope. But also, my one thing would be, if it's false hope, then is it good? I mean, in a way, if it creates a positive, does it matter the intent? I guess it depends a little bit on that. You can do some of the greatest things in the world for bad reasons, and you can do some of the worst things in the world for good reasons. So that one's a little harder, but that one was one that was like literally on everyone's list, so I thought I would include it. A big one is that they have had huge influence on the evolution of art. And I'm not talking just about paintings and sculptures. They've also had a huge influence on the evolution of music and poetry. For a while, most of the music that existed only existed through the church and religious groups. They did have a huge factor in that evolution. And I won't even consider those people who just consider themselves Christian who are also artists, just considering those patronized by the Catholic Church, in other words, hired by the Catholic Church to create a piece of art for the Catholic Church. I'll just name the 4. You may have heard of these people, maybe not. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello. Yes, the namesakes for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All sculptors and artists that all were patronized by the Catholic Church to create amazing works of art. So it has had a huge influence on that. Now, the next one, although this is not specifically run by the church, I'm going to give this to them anyway, and I'm talking about Christian charities. Christian charities are renowned across the world for their ability to be effective and to get resources where they need to go in the world. They are always considered some of the best in the world when it comes to charities. I know that I have donated whenever able to do charities, and I have donated significantly to Christian charities just based on their track records of actually being able to, number one, get into a country, and number two, being able to help the people of that country and actually get the resources to the people instead of the government of that country just taking it, or the charity itself taking that money and putting it to other things. So for that reason, they are some of the best in the world, and that is from the idea of doing good and being good. And lastly, and I mean, this isn't technically just for Christians. All people, they claim all people are welcome, but it gives a place where people can socialize and feel like they belong while judging everyone else's clothing. Sorry, I had to put that last bit in. I made that joke originally with my ex-girlfriend, who's a very, very devout Catholic, and even she's like, yeah, I can't be angry at you for that. Like, it's so true. Everyone I know who's Catholic makes that joke. It's just it's a thing. Now, there are some ideas, or some of what other people think the good that the Catholic Church has done. I have not covered. So I'm just going to highlight some of those and why I didn't cover them. Some of them might be obvious to you as to why I didn't cover them. Others, you might have an argument for, yeah, that should have been covered. So that's totally up to your opinion. And so this is just me sharing mine. First of all, the Crusades. Somebody argued that because the Crusades spread the Catholic Word of God and that they were trying to reclaim the land of God, that made them a good thing. I would say, how many people had to die? Was it really a good thing? All the crimes committed. I personally no. Just no. Hey, you might have a different opinion, but I'm generally not a fan of what happened during the Crusades. Now the Catholic Church and its employees are fighters and defenders of freedom. They have been in more recent years, yes, but there are examples of them going the other way on this too, so it's really a case by case. Now, according to the church, they claim that no man is free, with the idea that everyone is a servant to God. Well, in the Bible it uses more of a term for slave, but it's somewhere in between servant and slave. And then they say that, but our God has made us all free men. So we're free, but we're not really free, in other words. So even that, with what they're teaching, that's why I kind of held off putting that in there. Unity. If you're Catholic, absolutely, you can all unite. How unified are they with Hindus, Muslims, Jews, and non-believers? Atheists, agnostics, etc. More so now. It's going in the right direction. I will give them all that credit in the world. They are way more open to dialogue now than they ever have been before. Before it used to be, you don't believe my God, you must die. Now it's much better than that, admittedly. But there's still a lot of like head bumping and stuff when it comes to others, especially the non-religious. I think most religious people can kind of acknowledge, oh, well, you've got a religion, so that means something. They have a lot more trouble when it comes to people who don't believe in any God whatsoever. I've mentioned before the sacraments. I won't mention it more than that. Political influence to influence positive change in many countries around the world. They are doing that, again, more so now. However, they have done this for both good and bad, in my opinion. So it's up to each specific example, and that's why I didn't put it on the main list. They have been in countries and tried to kind of soften dictatorships as well as more harsh countries and some of their laws, so that has been very good. They've also gone into places like Africa and basically said, well, you'll get the support if you don't allow your people, if you talk about abstinence and not talk about using condoms, for instance. So there are good and there are bad in everything. I've said that in other videos. It's very rarely that something is either good or bad. It's some shade of gray, some in between. And so, like I say, I think that's on a case-by-case basis, that if we want to talk about each one individually, we can and say, well, I think that's good, but I think this one's bad, just as an example. And lastly, truth. They spread truth. This one was on like every list that I read. Now these are all opinion written lists, obviously, and so I take what they say with a grain of salt. I did some of my own research when it comes to the things they were claiming, but when it comes to the truth one, you can't prove that it's true. until you die. And then you can't send me a message to tell me whether you were right or wrong. So sure, it could be true. You're absolutely right. It could be true, but if you claim it is actually true, you should have the responsibility in proving it. Now, again, what do I take from all of this? The Catholic Church does good things for the world. I do not deny that fact. I just, like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't think that the good personally outweighs the bad. But that's just my opinion, and you may have a different one, and if that's the case, cool, I totally respect it. I feel you're totally entitled to that opinion, and you have every right to it. And I won't lose respect if you disagree with me. Now, the last thing I do want to leave with is technically, most of the things on this list, except for maybe the sacraments, although that's not on the main list, could be done by a non-religious person too. It tends to be easier if you have a pre-existing structure with a decent amount of financial backing to more quickly act on these things that are needed, and so in that way the church has a great advantage. However, I, as a non-religious person, could theoretically do any of these things too. It may just take me a little bit more time to gather resources and build what I need to build. There is the claim that, well, the church has been, well, why aren't there non-religious charities and stuff, and why aren't non-religious hospitals and stuff like that being built? Well, most of the hospitals in my country are not religious hospitals anymore. Most of them are neutral. There are some religious hospitals still, but for the most part, it's non-religious. Again, as I mentioned, if you already have that structure available, it's going to be quicker and easier to build those charities. Also, being non-religious, being agnostic or an atheist is a fairly, well, I don't believe it's a new phenomenon. There is some argument that some of the founding fathers in the US were not overly religious people, and they may have even questioned whether a God exists or not. However, that being said, there was an incredible stigma that came with that, and so it's only in recent years that, in the last 100 years, and even then probably less than that, that atheists could start actually saying, hey, I'm an atheist, and so it would be hard to go back past that point and say, okay, well, this person did this great stuff and he was Christian, so that counts towards Christianity. I mean, I'll give that one to you, and you can have it, but there are definitely people throughout history that seem like they're not overly religious, but have just claimed that they are because in a way they had to. So nowadays there are charities that are starting to form. There are things being built. There are things the structures are being grown and built that show that there will be more non-religious charities in the future. So that's also a good sign. But yeah, that's just my opinion on all of this. If you disagree, hey, that's cool. I get it. We all have different opinions on something. So that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.